Hey there, welcome back to another week of Leading from the Middle, where I am, let me introduce me, Helen Young-McLaughlin. I am connecting with 23 different leaders to learn a little bit more about what they believe companies can do to transform their middle managers into their most valuable asset. And I do this by asking one question. This is definitely a passion project of mine. I have been enjoying all of the connections that I'm making. And this week, I'm super excited to introduce you to my guest, Suzanne Boyer. She is the Executive Director of Human Resources at Anne Arundel Community College. Anne Arundel Community College is based just outside of Annapolis, Maryland, for those listening in who might not be in the local area. And I just want to say, hey, Suzanne, welcome. How are you today?
Good. Thanks so much for having me, Helen.
Suzanne, I know that you oversee a team, but I don't know about how many people you oversee. Can you share that
Yeah,
with us?
I oversee 11 HR professionals at Anne Arundel Community College and have been there since 2009.
Tell us a little bit about your role there.
So my role as Executive Director of Human Resources is really to provide the strategic direction for the human resources the services that we provide for faculty and staff whose job is to educate the many students who come through our doors. And so, everything from compensation to performance management to benefits to employee relations. I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but the entire gamut of all of the human resources functions that we do to support our faculty and staff, which we have about 2,000 faculty and
Wow.
staff who work at AACC.
For those listening, I happen to know Suzanne, and she is forgetting probably many, many things. She simplified what she does, I think, to some degree, but you have a big role. And I'm really curious. I'm going to dive into the question here, Suzanne, which is what is one thing that companies need to pay closer attention to when it comes to developing their managers? And I know your lens right now is really in higher education. So give us that perspective.
Sure. It's hard to narrow it down to one thing. I struggled with like what's the one thing. I think the thing that I'm going to focus on today is giving training and experiences to the middle level managers that can support them in their role of fostering talent. So
Mm,
many people right now are going through challenges in terms of recruiting and retaining employees. And that really is one of the largest functions of those middle level managers is getting those good folks in the door and retaining them and having them be successful employees at the college or wherever they may be working. And part of that is training employees or connecting with employees, the middle level manager connecting with those employees in a positive way so that they feel valued, they feel heard, and they want to stay and continue to contribute to the institution or the organization in which they're working for. I think I was thinking back about some things that we've done at AACC that help to foster that. And one of the biggest changes that we made was in our performance management system, which
mhm.
allowed those middle level managers who were doing those performance reviews to actually make a better connection with the employee in a coaching method. So we got rid of this idea of doing performance evaluations where you got a score or you
Okay.
got far exceeds expectations or meets expectations because people walked into those reviews and unless you got the highest score, you didn't get an A, right? So if you met expectations, you really got a C. You didn't get an
Yep.
A, and people walked away feeling badly about those. And in 2021, we initiated a new performance management process. And that got rid of those scoring. So there were no longer like 10 categories where you checked off a box in terms of how well that person was doing it. But what we did is we created a performance evaluation that really was a coaching conversation. And that's what we call them. We got rid of the idea of calling it a performance review. We actually call it a coaching conversation. And we nicknamed it Excel. So
Mm.
Excel standing for express appreciation, constructive criticism, environment and values, learning and growth, and listening to the employee and developing goals. And so twice a year, the manager sits down with the employee and has this conversation, and it really is a dialogue. It is not the manager speaking to the employee, but it is a two-way dialogue where the employee is asked questions. How do you think you're doing? How do you think you're exhibiting, supporting the values of the college? And what could I help you to do better to be able to meet those values?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really been such an incredible experience and such a change process for the college. And I think that middle level managers are able to make connections with their employees in a way that they never did before. And so I would say having a company look at alternatives to kind of traditional performance management systems and give middle level managers an opportunity to make those connections is incredibly important to them ultimately retaining those employees that they have worked so diligently to hire.
And it's so important too, Suzanne, because retention, if we can retain people, right, that's your future pipeline.
Yeah.
It also allows a company to save money because the cost of turnover is significant. I read something recently where specifically a manager, it can be 1.5 to 2 times their salary. And we're not even talking about the impact um, to the culture, the departments, all of that. But 1.5 to 2 times their salary is what it will cost to replace them. And so I love the idea that if companies start thinking about retention as maybe the sweet spot when managers are in their role, let's talk about retention. Let's have conversations around ways that we are engaging employees, to retain them. And it is, you mentioned the word connection a few times. I love results through relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't build those relationships, people are going to feel less valued. So I'm curious, when you think back to when you were, first starting out in management, what stood out to you? What gave you kind of that confidence, that you could excel in the role?
I think a couple things. I think positive feedback from your supervisor, clearly, so the next
Mm-hmm.
level up. But I also think positive feedback from the employees and knowing what it was that they needed to be successful, because my role was really to support them. I was giving direction and I was trying to motivate them, but I needed to understand each of those employees. And so I think that is a critical piece to successful management, is understanding that what each employee needs is different. And I think particularly now that we have multiple generations in the workforce, that what every employee needs is different. And so
Yep.
what my 25-year-old employee needs is very different than what my 62-year-old employee needs. And so
Mm-hmm.
being very conscious of that and asking questions about what do you need in order to be successful, and how do I provide that? And companies need to take the time to look at those factors and have those conversations with those middle level managers about what it is they need. Oftentimes, it is time and space and opportunity to have those conversations where you're not trying to quickly jam in, 4 performance evaluations in a certain time period, and you're kind of, you're being monitored as to how quickly you get those done, and it becomes a check the box activity.
Right.
But it's truly, a company is giving a time where the manager can actually dedicate time to those conversations with those employees.
And I loved going back to what you said about considering the alternatives to the traditional
Mm-hmm.
performance management, conversations. what I think managers may need some additional support with is, how do I effectively have those conversations, connecting it to what you just said, knowing that my staff is unique? It's not a one size fits all. We don't have a script. I mean, we might be able to outline, right, what we want, how we want to approach the conversation, but we have to look at everybody as unique. That's what I'm hearing you say. And so how do you help support those managers in being able to ask effective questions? That coach approach, you mentioned it, right? We're using the coaching method. So is there one thing that you help managers understand when it comes to having those conversations with employees?
So when we rolled out this new idea of performance management, we actually required all managers to attend a training. And I actually did that training with another coach. And what we did is we spent time doing role plays. We talked about things like effective communication and having those difficult conversations and conversation starters. And we talked not only about the logistics of having the conversation, like making sure you schedule a time that's ahead of time and not just walk up to someone's desk and say, oh, we're going to have your performance conversation, your performance coaching now, right? Like we tell people ahead of time, and doing them in a quiet place. And we added some humor into that because there were experiences and things that I had been told about. And so while people thought it was kind of funny, these things actually happened. And so we had groups of employees. We limited them to 20 in a classroom. And we actually spent 3 hours kind of talking through what it would be like to give an evaluation. And then we also demonstrated what a kind of evaluation gone badly looked like, and then maybe what a coaching conversation would look like. We provided resources with coaching phrases and questions and ways to have difficult conversations with someone when maybe there was a performance issue that we needed to look a little bit closer at that needed to be addressed during that conversation. And so I think we tried to create a baseline where everyone had some basic skills to be able to go into that. And then we also offered opportunities for coaching with a member of the HR team if you knew you were going to have a difficult conversation with someone and you wanted to role play that. You wanted to see what that might look like. And we really
am like, the fibers in my body are jumping around with joy right now because that's such a tremendous support to many managers that I work with have difficulty envisioning having what they perceive to be a difficult conversation. And so adding in those layers of support, not only being able to talk to a member of the HR team, but the different types of trainings or development that you offered along the way is tremendous. So I'm celebrating that investment because it is an investment of time, probably money and energy. And those are like all top commodities, right? And the outcome, I'm curious, do people feel more confident in approaching those types of conversations that are necessary?
Yeah, I think they do. I think there's still challenges, obviously. I think that, no one wants to have a confrontational conversation. I think that using tools that can be learned during coaching and having had that experience allows you a different way to phrase it. And so it doesn't come off as attacking, but it comes across as, help me understand what's causing you to be late 4 out of 5 days. Is there something going on at home that's forcing you to be in that situation? And let's talk about that. I think people are much more it's a much more approachable situation when you kind of offer what's the ability for me as the manager to help you get here on time versus you're not here on time, I'm going to watch you at the time clock when you punch in, and then we're going to talk about that. Why were you 3 minutes late? And so oftentimes when you take the time to ask the question, there's more to the story.
And I'm nodding my head. Nobody can see me nodding my head, but taking the time love that because I call this the power of the pause. Insert that time to really ask yourself a question, to ask the employee a question, and to bring it back to results through relationships. This is one of the key things in the program that I lead called the Leverage Academy, where there's so much around communication. And in the center, it really is results through relationships. And a lot of the managers that I work with, whether they're a little more seasoned or not, and some are emerging managers, the majority of them say, I never thought about managing as results through relationships. And I said, yeah, let's change the narrative a little bit. If you use that as a guide, it might help you in your next conversation. So Suzanne, if you were going to bottom line, and I know you know that term, because I do want to say I was so thrilled that I actually went through the coaching program at Anne Arundel Community College and have since gotten ICF certified, and running my business now. So I am very grateful for your time today. And I would love to hear if you could just bottom line what you think that companies need to pay closer attention to when it comes to developing their managers. What would you say?
Thank you for the shout out to Anne Arundel's coaching program, which is amazing. I would say that allowing those middle level managers time to develop, and develop those soft skills that maybe we don't always take the time to allow our folks to develop. We may teach them, how do you enter a time card? How do you enter or approve someone's leave? But we don't often give them, I liked your comment about the pause, giving them an opportunity to think and pause. Sometimes we all think at different paces. Some of us are crock pots and some of us are microwaves, and we have to
I love that. I've never heard that before.
Okay. Yeah.
Thinking as some of us are crock pots and some of us are microwave. This is like exploding in my head right now. I love that.
And giving people the space to do that, and everybody's going to do that in their own time. I think coaching is a wonderful skill that can not only help you personally, but can 100% help you in an organization. And Anne Arundel Community College has many trained employees now as coaches, and we use it in our daily work every day. I use my coaching skills in my job every day.
I love that. And I think it's really important for senior leaders to be equally involved as the managers that are, building their skills. You can build those skills together. It doesn't really end, does it? It's like parenting. It doesn't really end. Suzanne, if people want to learn a little bit more about you, connect with you, where would they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, or you can go to Anne Arundel Community College's page and reach out to me that way and look at some of the programs that the college offers. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or make any new connections. That would be terrific.
And definitely reach out to Suzanne. She is amazing. I can say that for sure. We've worked together in different capacities for many, many years. And I appreciate your time, Suzanne. Thanks so much. And remember, quick point that I wanted to make is for every person that I connect with, I am donating to the Hospice of the Chesapeake, which is a local organization here just outside of Annapolis, Maryland, that is helping people who are dealing with end of life issues. So thank you to all the people there who are supporting people day in and day out through such a tough time. And I hope you all stay tuned in next week for another episode of Leading from the Middle. Have an awesome day. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to another interview of Leading from the Middle. I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback from you. I want to connect with you. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Helen Young-McLaughlin. Just hit that hyphen in between Young and McLaughlin, or you can go to my website at helenyoungcoaching.com. Thanks again and have a great day.